It's cheap, yeah. It's, you know, it's amazing. And what I also love about it is it's providing value first to the viewers. It's showing them that here's some really amazing content, here, have it, totally ungated, you can see it, there you go. And then it's saying, okay, now that you've gotten this free, awesome content, how about an email address?
Welcome to Modern Entrepreneur. Today we have something different. We have Lena Requist, who is my partner at Ontraport. She's the president and is passionate about growing businesses, developing kick-ass business teams, and she brings that enthusiasm along with an impressive background of building startups into multi-million-dollar businesses to her inspirational and motivational talks. Her talent has helped grow Ontraport 5,000% in 3 years, initially landing the organization at 102 on the Inc. 500 list and number 96 on the Forbes list of America's most promising companies. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. So talk to me about your unique skill set.
I think my unique skill set is organizing teams to get shit done. And that is a little bit of a challenge when you have about 100 people that are all, all have different opinions and different ideas of, the right thing to do and the right way to do it, and aligning them around the goal and how things should get done is a specific skill I bring to the table. Yeah,
and so what is the secret? We got small business owners watching this thing. Many of them are hiring their first team members. It turns out to be pretty easy. Or at least for me, it was pretty easy till about 7 or 8 people, and all of a sudden it got really hard. And I'm sure that some of the people watching this are kind of like in that experience right now of like kind of getting to their sort of ceiling of complexity, as you like to say, around kind of like managing the work that goes on that's not you doing it. So what is the secret kind of like takeaway that somebody with your set of skills can share?
Yeah, well, I think if we talk about that kind of entrepreneur that's kind of like flying by the seat of their pants, just with like 1 or 2 employees, they're just kind of first starting to, pass stuff off. They're really working with either like the taskmaster, where they're like saying, hey, do this, then come back, hey, do this, then come back. Or they're just kind of abdicating to someone and saying, I don't even want to think about this, here you do it. And now they're not training or sharing information, they're just like, it's like out of their perspective entirely. So it's kind of either total control or no control. That's where most entrepreneurs, CEOs, those kind of visionaries fall into play. And there's this middle ground where you don't have to absolutely micromanage people, and you don't have to just kind of like take your eye off the ball either, where you train and give people information and show them where you want to go and follow up and check in and actually allow people to think and learn and grow and get stuff done. And now you've delegated. And that's really the skill, is delegation and growing people.
So you got a team of people. They're obviously wanting to do a good job. You're trying to get some sort of happy medium between where you're micromanaging and not really harvesting the brilliance of the people that you hired, and then this other side of the coin where you're kind of just like you said, abdicating, and you may not end up getting back what you were hoping for. So what is it that our viewers can do like today to help them make sure that they're getting back the result that they want, while also inviting and encouraging the insight and brilliance of the people that they have brought onto the team?
Well, I think number one is first knowing what they want in the first place, and that's a lot of times where I find people failing in this kind of delegation process is they don't know what they want. They don't have an example of what they want. Yeah. They don't have kind of anything really set up. to share with this person so that person can then be successful.
Right.
So that's kind of step one, is kind of even just knowing what you want so that person can then produce that.
Yeah.
Number two is then share with the person, this is what I want and this is when I want it by, so they can meet your expectations. So just share your expectations and let them go off to the races. And then step three is follow up and make sure that they're on track and provide feedback and let them know that they're doing a good job or not doing a good job, and don't just forget about it. Just don't like pass it off and say, I'm done, I don't have to worry about it anymore, but follow up and make sure that they're still on track. So I use this 80-20 rule a lot of times with delegation, where I say you're still 20%, you're still 20% doing that task even though you've delegated it. The 80% is being done by the person you delegated it to. The other 20% is still on you. You got to set it up right, you got to share an example, you got to set your expectations, and you got to follow up.
Yep. Got it. So interestingly, in our organization, you're also responsible for our marketing team, which is the second biggest team in our company?
That's the
third biggest team in our company. And we do a lot in marketing right now. We take on a lot, and we produce a lot. And so you got a unique perspective because we're doing a lot of pretty cutting edge stuff, and we do a lot of experimentation. What would you say is the thing that's working right now that you're most excited about?
There's always new, different things that you can try and test, but the thing that that I really like that's working right now is this kind of content marketing, retargeting, kind of tied together. That's really working great, because what is awesome about it is people produce so much content, at least we do. And I know the people out there viewing have probably heard about content marketing, heard they need to write a blog, and they've probably done the work to like write the blog, and then they're like, now I don't have any viewers, or I didn't really get much from it. And we were in that boat too, and we were like, oh my gosh, we did all this work, and like what came of it? And it was just a few little tweaks, and it was really almost like mechanics that needed to happen in order to drive the traffic, to get the viewers, and then to pixel them, and then to retarget them back to offers for opt-ins. And those little tweaks and those little changes have been game-changing. And it's not like we have to produce new content. The content is already there. It's just mechanics.
And it's cheap.
It's cheap, yeah. It's it's amazing, and what I also love about it is it's providing value first to the viewers. It's showing them that here's some really amazing content. Here, have it, totally ungated. You can see it. There you go. And then it's saying, okay, now that you've gotten this free, awesome content, how about an email address? It really sets up the relationship right from go.
So. What are you excited about learning? What is like the cutting edge for you personally in your business life?
In my business life, gosh, there's so much to learn. I feel like we've just scratched the surface in terms of marketing. And we're still a small company. We're 100 people, and it'd be really interesting to see what happens when we're at 200 or 1,000 people. If we get there, and yeah, I would like our team, our marketing team, our engineering team, just the whole Ontraport machine to be the thing that we totally envision it to be, like the machine, the promise, of 30 minutes or less for our really small business owners. I want to figure it out. I want to crack this nut. I want to crack this nut. There's a lot. I just said a lot of different things. And it's hard. It's hard to serve the small business market and market to them and provide them with tools and educate them and also do it with a bunch of young people who haven't necessarily been entrepreneurs themselves. That's really hard. And it's a good challenge, and it's good to keep learning and trying to figure out how to do it. And
yeah. So in terms of your kind of like growing edge right now on the organizational side of the business, what is the thing that you think, my experience is that we got to 7 people or 8 people or something before you came around, and then that was a big transformation when you kind of like organized us as a business. And then there's been kind of these kind of like inflection points in terms, or points of change where things have just really felt different. Kind of like around 25 people, all of a sudden the business changed and our organization had to change. And then kind of around 75 people, that happened again. And each time we learned something new. And I feel like we're kind of at that point where we're making another sort of shift in the way the organization works. And you're always the one kind of like pushing us forward in that way, and kind of like going, hey, let's try things differently this way. Let's organize our workload in this different way. Let's split these teams up and reorganize how we're going to tackle this problem. And what do you feel like is kind of like next for the organizational aspect of our company?
What's next for the organizational aspect of our company?
Yeah. What changes happen between 75 and 150 people, do you think, in an organization?
What books say that happens is quite a bit of more specialization. And you create kind of like these project teams. So a great example is, you mentioned this the other day, which is, do we have a group of engineers that just are responsible for sets of features, and they're responsible for that. We've kind of set this up in marketing a little bit, where we have a group of people who are responsible for, acquisition, and a group of people who are responsible for conversion. We set that up already. And you get that to be more and more specific. Like in customer support, we would have not only the client success team, but actual customer support reps responsible for people in their first 90 days. And so on and so forth. You kind of become more specialized and further kind of ingrained in one specific area of the business. Like this whole kind of unit is focused on conversion and onboarding. This whole specific unit is focused on retention and what are they doing, and they're working with, they're the retention team. And it just becomes more and more specialized. Yeah.
Interesting. It's an interesting challenge, because when we're smaller, as entrepreneurs and business owners, even when we have 10, 20, 30 people, we kind of like wear a lot of hats, right? And when we work in a business that way, we tend to know a lot about what's going on in all the different areas of the business, because you're doing marketing one day and sales the next day and support the next day, or whatever. And then as we specialize, we wear fewer hats, and then kind of communication becomes a problem. Yeah. How do you foresee like continuing to solve that problem?
I think what the books don't really talk about, and this is where bureaucracy comes into play, and lack of efficiency and challenges with the old corporate model, is that they forget to take into account the customer life cycle, and really talking about how where the customer starts in the journey and how it flows through, and how all the pieces are connected, and how from this piece of the customer life cycle, or the journey, that at every stage impacts the next stage and impacts the first stage, because it's very circular, it's not linear, and that everybody can see the pieces, and yet they're still focused and specializing in their one area. So they can provide feedback to the other teams, but they're narrowed and focused. And you can do that in the business of our business, Ontraport, with engineering and client-facing teams, with sales and customer support, and in marketing, et cetera. They're all focused on the client journey at different stages. Features that support onboarding, features that support retention, features, et cetera. And then in operations, it's the same kind of thought process, but the onboarding, the journey is for employees, the employee journey, right? What's the employee journey like from acquisition all the way to termination.
Right. So, so you're talking about like kind of like institutionalizing or like almost systemizing the communication process that has to happen from kind of like handoff to handoff as either employees or customers kind of move through the process that our business provides.
Yeah.
Interesting. So if you could go back, and I'm just going to say 7 years to when you started working at this business, what would you, if you could go back and give yourself some advice to kind of like avoid challenges or grow faster or more smoothly, what would that advice be?
Shoot, I can think of a bunch of mistakes that we made along the way. I think it was a mistake to wait for marketing.
So we should have hit the gas pedal sooner.
Yeah, I mean, we had cash early on, and we didn't save it. We just like used it for other things instead of growing the business, because we were growing. We were growing by word of mouth, which was awesome, and we were like, but hey, the app looks like Fruit Loops, and and we didn't feel so great about that, and we wanted the new version of the app to come out, and so instead of focusing on marketing, which we didn't necessarily know much about or really even believe in, let's just focus on growing the reinvesting all of our resources into engineering and growing the feature set and growing the infrastructure. And I mean, there was good thought process in there for sure. And we've been playing catch up now for a couple of years. In
terms of the marketing side of the business?
In terms of the marketing side, and I think that's hurt us in a few different ways.
Yeah.
So I wish we would have I would have told myself, start sooner.
Start sooner.
Yeah, not necessarily right from go, but sooner. You know, bringing in a marketing leader early on. That would have been an early hire. Yeah,
interesting. So when you think about your career, like long term, and what it will look like, in the future or at the end, what would you like your legacy to have been?
You and I talk about this already, and I definitely know that I make an impact on the individual people's lives that I work with. But I would like, if I'm really talking about legacy, what I would really like is that the way people do business in this kind of corporate environment change, and that we stop looking at employees as commodities and really look at them as people, and not you and me, but society as a whole. And if we make that shift and consider people and employees as human beings, then there's a lot that can be accomplished from that. Not only with society being the change that can happen from that alone would be incredible. I just see like better benefits, better innovation, less crime. There's just so more wealthier people, better economies, just like so many other amazing things. And it just takes a slight shift in the perspective. It goes from the employer thinking about what can I get out of you, and like I pay you, so you have to do this, which is now like slavery almost. You know what I mean? Like I own you, right? I pay your salary, so do it. Versus a relationship, an exchange of values, and that is like a different perspective. And you can start to think like, okay, if this is an exchange of values, then I'm getting something and they're getting something. Well, what are they getting? That's not money. If you remove money, well, what are they getting? What am I getting? And looking at it like that, it becomes a human question.
Interesting. That's a perfect lead into the next question, which is, what does modern entrepreneur mean to you? What is a modern entrepreneur?
A modern entrepreneur is someone who's willing to question what is the current state of things, you know, and be curious and just, you know, be in inquiry all the time. You know, just because the status quo is so doesn't mean that it will always be that way. A modern entrepreneur is someone who is always looking for the new, the next, you know, the now, and always in inquiry about what that might be.
Great. Well, thanks so much for being here. Would you sign our wall?
Yeah. That is it.
I give really good commission plans, and I give bonuses as well, and we have a tight-knit group, so I stay very close with the sales guys and try to make an environment where everyone is friends with each other and we have healthy competition every single month.